Good day. This is the diary of the Pan-African preacher. There's an African proverb that says, traveling is learning. Traveling is learning. As several African governments trim down their overseas travel budgets, they must also provide some direction on official expenses and how politicians and civil servants, even civic society leaders, should conduct themselves overseas. Tens of thousands of Africans will travel to America, Europe, Australasia on official business and on behalf of their companies. Their primary task should be the honest representation of their African employer. This should be an easy task, except that the overwhelming expectations by many is that the trip is to make an opportunity to enrich themselves or their families. As preachers, we are also pulled by the demands of family and friends to access goods and services that may be difficult to obtain at home or at a reasonable cost. I recently traveled to the United States of America for a conference and had to remind myself of the trip's priorities. I needed to be brief on the issues pertinent to Africa's interests. What are the strengths and weaknesses represented by my African employers and clients? And how do I network and caucus with my African sistren and brethren, many of whom may not know each other? What Pan-African links and connections will facilitate our long-term policy directions, such as the African Continental Free Trade Area? In other words, as we travel overseas, we need to know our subject, know our audience, know our stakeholders, develop our networks, and report comprehensively and honestly. Investing in overseas travel is a communal learning exercise that would become incorporated into our story. The soft benefits of overseas travel are personal contacts made, access to goods and services bought or given, and the educational and cultural currency gained from the international exposure and interaction. Our presence in foreign metropoles also involves some myth busting. You will be amazed at the ideas and opinions people overseas have about Africa and Africans. Representing Africa goes beyond our presence in hotels and conference halls. As more and more Africans travel overseas for business and personal reasons, we need to be intentional about keeping as much of our wealth within the continent. Flying African airlines and using African travel companies and tour operators are just some of the actions we can take. Sub-Saharan Africa's economic growth is projected to grow to 3.3% this year, and its aviation capacity will grow by 25%. It is our prayer that our traveling will result in Africa's development and that continental learning will increase, benefiting all of our people. Ashe.